You also
do
have great
this,
receivers.
and you can run.
Yes.
Well,
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want them to get to, and AJ's probably going to want the ball.
Well, AJ put
But
on
you gotta be
Instagram, he was
smart.
like, I won the Super Bowl and realized I actually didn't love it. I didn't enjoy it that much. Like, and again, I'm being a little
Paraphrasing,
tongue-in-cheek.
But that's what they're gonna have to fight against.
AJ put on Instagram essentially confirming some of the stuff you've said, which is, man, if you're a great player, yes, you want to win, but you want you to be a part of the reason you're winning and put up the big numbers. Yeah. So that's, but go ahead.
Okay. So this actually really kind of drives me crazy because this is such a mischaracterization of what AJ Brown said. Now, they haven't really covered this. This is just this one little segment that they kind of brought up when this Instagram post first came about. And other people came to me personally and said, "Oh, how do you think about this?" And I was like, it's so obvious what he's saying. And I thought the people who got confused by it were just a bunch of old random people who just, can't really, follow the logic. Because to me, it's as clear as day. But the fact that we now have Nick Wright saying this really just kind of drives me crazy because he should know. He should know. He's been around the block. He's been around. And he is, an intelligent, insightful person. We could disagree with his takes, that's totally fine, but he's not dumb. And so this really, really, really drives me crazy. So let's take a look. Okay. This is what he said. After a few days, I've had time to reflect on being a champion. I tried to feel how everyone made it seem to be a champion, and unfortunately it was short-lived. 2 days to be exact, laugh out loud. I've never been a champion at the highest level before, but I thought my hard work would be justified by winning it all. It wasn't. My thrill for this game comes when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it for me. It's when the DB drops his head and surrender because he can't with me. The intense battles, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices. I love putting smiles on people's faces. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It's the journey that I love the most. Back to work. What he's saying is not that he's only happy when he dominates, when he puts up all the numbers and is the reason why they win. Yes, at the core of essentially every single athlete who's ever played the game wants to be the reason why the team wins and succeeds. That's the reality. Everybody wants to be the reason. Everybody wants to be the reason, even if they're not an athlete, in their own life. You want to be the reason why you're successful in life. You want to be the reason why you're successful in your relationships, at your job, money, parents, whatever it is. You want to be the person. Everybody. It's just your ego. But that's not really what he's saying. What he's talking about the experience of you try so hard to achieve something, to win, and you achieve it, and the moment you achieve it, it's over. It's done. The moment they won, the moment the clock struck zero, and they were Super Bowl champions, it was already over. It was already in the past. And this is something that whether you're, no matter what your spiritual background is, they all teach it. Whether you're Christian, you're Jewish, Buddhist, whatever, they all kind of talk about this, right? It's like the foundation to all of these spiritual journeys. To religious journeys of it's the journey, not the destination. It's not, if it wasn't, we would all just skip to heaven, man. We would just get right there. That's not what it's about. And that's what he's talking about. And he's processing this in real time. And it's actually awesome that he's doing it so vocally. Because this is something that we as just human beings have to struggle with. We have to wrestle with it. We see this with all people who get really successful. They want to become billionaires, millionaires. They want to create this company, this, that, whatever. And once they do it, they're just like, I did it. I accomplished it. I won. I'm a champion. And then like the next day, you're like, whoa. Like we're already on to the next season. It's they're already talking about repeating or three-peating. I mean, think about it. 1 minute the Kansas City Chiefs are on top of the world. The next minute everyone's making fun of Patrick Mahomes. They're literally making fun of Patrick Mahomes. Whether like actual real people who like know what they're talking about or like random people on like Good Morning America or whatever. 1 minute it's like we're going to three-peat. The next minute it's wow, that was ugly. You think you're Tom Brady? Yeah, right. Like that's how fast this stuff happens. And actually, BoJack Horseman, of all places, which is actually, a pretty deep show for those of you who didn't watch it. I don't have the clip lined up, but they talk about this, where, you know, he wants to win an Academy Award, you know, badly. And they say, you know, will that make you happy? And he's essentially like, you know, yeah, well, for a moment, you know, and then after, I don't know. And then the person who's talking to him is like, well, then what? And he's like, I don't know. And that's what happens. That's what happens when you're so, you know, goal oriented and so driven that regard. You know, there's a lot of things that I want. My one good friend growing up, you know, we talked about this like throughout our lives of how badly we want to be married and have kids and make money and, you know, just be a human being essentially, right? This is when we're, you know, pretty young and just like, you know, going through the process of life. And, you know, he meets his wife and he's about to get married soon and he's got an awesome job with a ton of freedom. He's doing everything that he wanted and he's like, I'm unhappy, you know, and he's like, it's crazy. And I'm like, in a way, it's actually kind of beautiful because it's what we've studied and learned throughout our lives that we knew that being happy is not about these external accomplishments, no matter what it is, no matter all the money, no matter who you get to marry. You can marry the most perfect person in the world, have beautiful, healthy children, all of this, that unhappiness is still kind of right behind you. And again, these guys are so happy to win the ring, to get the Super Bowl, but it's already in the past. It's already happened weeks ago at this point. It's already just a memory. And now it's like, now what? You know, and you know, there's endless examples of this. Jim Carrey, you know, has such a great clip of this. He explains this actually very well. Take a listen.
I am two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being three-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey, because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards. I don't want you to think that just because if you blew up our solar system alone, you wouldn't be able to find us or any of human history with the naked eye. But from our perspective, this is huge.
Yeah. And he's really talking to that, right? I would be enough if I was a 3-time Golden Globe winner, but I'm only 2-time Golden Globe winner. And I'm trying to pursue this thing that ultimately won't actually fulfill me. And it's something that people have to wrestle with. It's a difficult thing to wrestle with. And so he was just speaking about that in a lot of ways. And he was saying, actually, what I really love about football, I thought it was winning the Super Bowl, but then I actually really realized, like, no. It's the late nights. It's working hard. It's the actual competition itself. It's being in the weight room. It's being with the guys late night. It's just sitting on the bench, having random conversations. When I think about my own playing career that I guess is old now too, that's what I think about, man. I think about everything else but the winning. I mean, I had some amazing moments. I've been fortunate to have some really awesome highs where I was the hero, where all the attention truly was on me, and that obviously felt amazing. And yeah, I can still remember, you know, to a large degree, some of those feelings. But what like I really miss is what I just said, sitting on the bench and just talking to people, having that conversation, having that camaraderie, the intensity of the moment right before the game starts, where you feel like you're about to go to battle, in the middle of the game when the battle is taking place. You know, after the game when you feel like you are just so beat up and worn out, you know your body aches, you're all bruised, bloody, all that type of stuff. You're exhausted. You know you earned that shower, that meal, and sleep. You feel like a warrior going to bed. You know, all of those moments, the bus rides, the plane rides, all of that type of stuff. The random moments when you get your coach to laugh or make a weird comment, you know, like whatever it is, any of the random inside jokes you have, the failures, all of it. It's not just about the accomplishment itself. And so that's all A.J. Brown was speaking about. It's like one of the biggest cliches. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Again, like every single spiritual background talks about that. No matter what school of thought you come to, whether you don't believe in any of that stuff and you're just like all about science, it's also science too. It's also just fundamental to psychology. And it's a lesson that not everyone learns, or they learn, when they're significantly older. I was lucky. I read a random book and it kind of, explained that to me when I was like 17, 18 years old. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. And then I kind of played the tape in my head and I was like, yeah, what would happen if I won, 5 championships in a row and I was the MVP and I was worth, $200 million and I had all of this? Like, would I be happy? And I kind of felt to myself like, no, I'd still be unhappy. Like, it would be cool. I'd be living like a pretty wild life, but I still there would be still something missing. And what does that mean? And that put me on my own journey to try to figure out, what does that mean? How do I find happiness? How do I be content with my life? And it's always a fascinating, you can apply it to your life in so many different ways. Again, work, relationships, school, sports, whatever it is. And so to keep having this kind of be blown out of proportion, that AJ Brown is saying, man, I just want the ball. Give me the ball. I'm only happy when I have the ball. It's just not true. And it's just, maybe some people really actually do fail to understand what AJ Brown is talking about. And I'm open to that, because this is definitely, more my expertise with this stuff, because this is stuff that I've contemplated, like literally, essentially my entire life. This is just the way how my mind has been wired. It's what I went off to go study and learn about. And then again, learn about all various, psychological, spiritual traditions, etc., etc. The pursuit of happiness and what that means and how to achieve it has been a foundational component to my life. So I see something like this and I understand it right away. When I've tried to have other conversations with people, again, typically these are older people, I'm like, do you not understand what he's saying? And they're like, I just don't know why he said that. And I'm like, he didn't say anything wrong. And in fact, he shared something pretty important and pretty valuable. Could he have shared it a few days later than he did? Sure. But I remember watching this Super Bowl and how it unfolded, and when the game was over and I'm watching with other people, and everyone's kind of like clapping, celebrating, whatever, and other people are mourning. And I was just like, it's crazy. There was so much build up to this Super Bowl and it's over now. And I didn't share that because I was like, you know what? Everyone else is kind of in this whole Super Bowl bubble. So I was like, I'm not going to share it out loud. I'm just going to wait. I'm not going to share that. But that was my experience right away. Having this channel, making all the videos, all the intensity of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And it was like, oh my God, who's going to win? Who's going to win? Nick Wright saying that they have no chance. And I'm like, of course they have a chance. And I know full well that if the Eagles win, that a lot of more people are going to be supportive of me and say, wow, what you were saying was right. And if the Kansas City Chiefs win, I am going to just be inundated with endless amounts of hate of how much I'm a clown and I'm this and that. And I was like, I felt the pressure. And when the Eagles won, there was a legitimate relief. There was a legitimate of like, oh God, yes. The NFL balance has been restored. Like, yes. And I was grateful. But I also realized that there was such this massive buildup and it's already over. And I was like, this is already over. It was what my experience was too. And I didn't even win the Super Bowl. Okay. I wasn't on the field. My life doesn't like legitimately change one way or the other. So this is a real experience. And it's important to talk about. It's important to understand. And the fact that an elite, special athlete who just won the Super Bowl is now comfortable and confident enough to share with the masses, hey, this is not what this is all just about. Winning the Super Bowl at the end of the day is not what this is all just about. And again, coaches often have a ton of experience, especially obviously the older coaches, and they got the wisdom. And this is what Fangio said, the literal Philadelphia Eagles head defensive coordinator. This is what Fangio said after he won the Super Bowl. I heard a quote that Dean Smith many years ago. If you guys remember, he went to a bunch of Final Fours before he finally won one. And they asked him the next day, how does it feel you got a monkey off your back? Fangio said, he said, I'm the same coach today as I was yesterday. We just got a championship. So I don't look at it as it validates me or anything. It's just a great accomplishment. And that is a really, really important and healthy way to go about all of this stuff. And this is what I kind of argue a lot in the comment section and in my videos, where it's just kind of like, that's why I never use a singular game as proof that so-and-so is better, that this quarterback's better than that quarterback. Because if the Philadelphia Eagles ended up losing that Super Bowl, it wouldn't have invalidated any of my views on Jalen Hurts, on the Eagles, on how good they are. Just like how the Kansas City Chiefs losing didn't invalidate how good Andy Reid and it gives us more information to work with now, right? We see Jalen Hurts play great. We see Patrick Mahomes not. So again, it gives us more information. But if Jalen Hurts loses, doesn't invalidate. I said that I think that, Jayden Daniels is a great quarterback and will be great in the playoffs. And because of that, because of a Baker Mayfield fumble, he was able to prove that with flying colors. Maybe if Baker Mayfield doesn't fumble, he doesn't get to necessarily prove that. Wouldn't it mean that my take was wrong? It just wasn't given the opportunity to present itself. So we can't always use the outcome, the accomplishment, the goal as the answer, as the solution, as what is what. It doesn't work that way. You'll constantly be chasing. And this is something that I am really passionate about. But again, it's like I always say, multiple things can be true. Winning a Super Bowl can make you really happy, and it is an accomplishment that you want to have. And when looking back on your life, you're going to be really grateful and happy and cherish the fact that you did win and all the memories that surrounded that. But it just can't be the end all be all. You can't live a life where it's like, my life would have been complete if I won a Super Bowl. So that's really, in essence, what A.J. Brown was talking about. And it's what his own coach essentially said. It's what we have endless examples in, from famous people, from mega successful people, from celebrities, actors, TV shows, movies, religions. I'm sure you can find a Jesus quote and a Buddha quote saying the same thing, So to kind of twist that is actually really frustrating, because this should be a conversation starter for a lot of people. Again, I don't need A.J. Brown to say it, because this is stuff that I seek already. But there's a lot of people that, if unpacked correctly, it fundamentally changes their life. I essentially read this in a book when I was 18 years old, and it fundamentally changed the way I approached and navigated my own life. And I'm better off for it. I'm less confused. I'm not perfect. I'm not the happiest I could ever be. But I'm closer to that goal than I would have been if I didn't otherwise. And so for some people, they're going to hear that and they're going to be like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So A.J. Brown just won a Super Bowl, and yet he's still saying that it's not enough. I always thought just winning a Super Bowl would be like everything. That's so, and then it fosters something. It puts them on a path. And I think that's awesome. And again, the fact that he's got the confidence to share that and the self-awareness to share that is way more significant than people are giving credit for. So to kind of just throw it away as a joke, or to then also misconstrue and twist what he's actually saying, nah, man. Nah. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about what A.J. Brown said, about, winning the Super Bowl and everything that I just said? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.